Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today in this video we're going to be talking again about the potential for significant cold and possibly significant snow, and things have kind of developed, the stories become more interesting and the forecast has also become a bit more difficult now, and while it's looking likely we could see cold and also snow, there are a few things which might kind of inhibit that potentially, so I'll get into that video now. We'll start off by looking at the weather models. This is the American weather model from the 12 o'clock run, and so colours is rain, these kind of black lines are areas of equal pressure called isobars, then you can see areas of high pressure, low pressure, and then purple is forecasted snow. And so you can see, starting off today, we have high pressure, actually strong high pressure, across parts of kind of northern Russia and extending into kind of Scandinavia. And what that means is around high pressure the wind flows clockwise, and so we get kind of the wind flowing along these isobars clockwise, which means it kind of comes in from the east, and as you can see we get that kind of easterly flow, not a strong easterly flow, but it is an easterly flow across kind of parts of the UK, in fact all of the UK. And you can see, interestingly, we actually do get a few showers across the North Sea. If I zoom in quickly on a more high resolution model, you can see we get showers kind of starting on Saturday and then lasting all through the weekend. It kind of looks like they just magically appear from the sea, and that's because the air, which is colder than the sea, because you can see this is the air around -5 degrees at 1.5 kilometers up in the air, is moving over the North Sea, which is temperatures of about 10 to 15 degrees or so, and that creates a temperature difference which causes instability and allows these showers to form. And so that's why we've got these showers, and they're going to be mostly rain, but potentially overnight in some spots they could briefly turn to sleet or snow, but that's mainly going to be over the higher ground. If I zoom back out and go through the weekend, that's those snow showers, what you'll start to notice is that high pressure. We have quite a lot of high pressure. We've got one over here, we've got that one over kind of northern Russia. They both start to move towards Greenland and kind of merge, so we have a high pressure here, we have a big kind of developing Greenland high, and then what kind of happens is we get this low coming down and we get a really cold northerly flow beginning to develop by kind of Monday, Tuesday. If you remember, the wind's flowing like this and we get that Greenland high developing. There's probably some, let's see, so you can see we have that Greenland high developing, and that pushes a really cold northerly flow in behind it. You can see all this pink is indicating where snow showers could potentially form, and up until kind of around Wednesday we do actually have good confidence on this happening. If I show you the European model, you can see the same thing, and if I show you the Canadian model, you can see same thing there as well. So up until Wednesday, confidence is good, and this now kind of does mean we can start kind of initially suggesting where some snow might start to fall. And right now, the kind of areas most at risk, if I show you the Met Office model, the high resolution UKV model, you can see the areas most at risk of snow right now are kind of northern Scotland especially. So kind of any of these regions will be directly at the end of that northerly flow, which has got a really cold air like this. You can see -8, -9 at 1.5 kilometers, and what that means as we get snow starting to accumulate initially over mountains and then possibly to higher ground as well, as we get those really cold temperatures start to come in from the north. And at the same time, probably beginning quite cold days as well. You can see maximum temperatures for much of the UK and Ireland. If we go to 12 o'clock, you can see only 2-3 degrees, and it's into the southeast that's a bit higher, 4, 5, 6. So the first kind of section of this cold wave is now kind of nailed in, and that looks to be around Wednesday and Thursday, where it looks like things are going to initially turn colder with snow showers from the north. The next phase is that kind of that northerly going further south. So if I show you this temperature map again, by the way, just a quick reminder, like I said, this is a temperature at 1.5 kilometers, not the surface. But what you can see here is that by Thursday to Friday, we could potentially be looking at the next phase of the cold spell, which is a cold front coming down with this low, and then on the back side bringing in colder air with some potentially snowfall. And you can see there's a cold front right there. There's that kink in the isobars indicating where the front is, with precipitation in a band and then turning to snow. And this has got medium confidence. So if we show you, so there's a temperature that's definitely a dark blues, which is cold enough for snow to fall. If I show you the European model, you can see we see roughly the similar, kind of the similar or same thing, where we get that kink on the ice bars, that cold front coming down, along with that low pressure system, and kind of trying to push down. However, already kind of a difference starts to emerge. So whereas on the GFS, especially past GFS runs, for example the 6 o'clock run, we had that cold front diving all the way down towards the Bay of Biscay, snow showers all the way behind it, and a similar thing on the European model, where that cold front kind of really makes its way a bit further south, more towards northern France. If we look at the European model, the difference here is that cold front, you see, it's coming down like this, and then it kind of just loses its energy and it doesn't really get that far south. And so that's where the first kind of difference is starting to emerge. Let's take a look at the Canadian model. You can see here we get that northerly, that cold front, and then kind of more like the European, kind of in the middle, and you can see snow not so widespread. So this is the uncertainty, the first uncertainty already, and quite a lot of that uncertainty kind of has to do with the position of kind of lows to the south of the UK. Because if we look at the European model, you can see what we have is we kind of have these lows which are kind of drifting a bit further north, and what actually happens is that these lows they kind of move up from the south, and they kind of prevent that cold air from getting further south. So you can see, for example, on this European model run, we have the low pressure system sitting here trying to drag in that colder air, but except what happens is you get a low pressure system moving up from the south and actually bringing in properly mild air and completely getting rid of that cold kind of scenario, which was kind of looking quite likely. For example, on the 0 o'clock run, you can see that was a lot colder. If you look at the GFS, you can see what happens with those lows is they're a bit further south. This means that the cold can get further south initially, that low kind of hangs around, and we still get cold air continuing, not super cold air, but cold air nonetheless, continuing kind of through the forecast period like that, with a continued northerly wind, potentially some lows, bring some snow to southern England in that scenario. And then if we look at the Canadian model, you can see what eventually happens. It's kind of a bit more like the GFS, it seems, or kind of in between the GFS and European, where we do get that low coming up from the south, but it doesn't go properly, it doesn't bring the mild air, it kind of stays there. I mean, actually at the end of the run looks like it's trying to, but you can see it's kind of the middle ground. And so while kind of this morning it looked like it was going to be kind of really snowy, the lows were going to stay to the south, and we're going to get that cold air. Instead, it looks like potentially there could be a bit more of a kind of a battleground scenario of cold winning out. However, this kind of trend has only just appeared from the 6 o'clock and 12 o'clock runs today. It's kind of a recent thing, and even though it's sort of kind of notable that this trend is being shown up, it's not been going on for a few days now. So I'll see what happens. If it continues kind of past the weekend, that's kind of a bit more of a red flag for the snow potential if you're a cold fan. But if it's kind of more of a blip and it kind of disappears by tomorrow, by Monday, then we could be looking at kind of more significant cold on the table. And if we take a look kind of to help ourselves kind of get a better idea of what might happen, we can look at the Ensemble charts, which are kind of usually a great tool for kind of showing confidence. And you can see, if we look at London first, this is the temperature at 1.5 kilometers again. This is the GFS model. You can see we now have good confidence. So when the lines are close together, that's better confidence. When they're further apart, there's more possible solutions. So you can see we have up until kind of the 7th of December have good confidence on cooler than average conditions. Some showers at times, feeling quite cold, especially in an easterly wind. And what then happens, you can see that the white line is the average. Let me just reset that. The average kind of starts to go down, and we have a more kind of agreement for, actually let me just go here. We have more agreement for kind of colder weather. We're generally looking below this -6 for any snow, and you can see we have kind of a cluster of lines which kind of remain here before kind of after the 14th things turned more scattered. However, the kind of interesting thing is, if you look at the 0 o'clock run, you can see there was a lot more of a cluster towards below the -5, which indicates there could potentially be some sort of trend away from more prolonged cold to maybe more of a watered down or not so prolonged cold snap, which is kind of reflected here. That's potentially something that could happen. If we look at the European model, the same thing. Let's go to a bit higher, you can see we actually have more of a significant cluster here between the 6th and kind of the 10th of December for kind of snow conducive air, pretty cold, and then you can see it kind of brightens, kind of initially turns a bit milder with a kind of decent cluster and broadens out. If we compare that to the 0 o'clock run, you can see that run was a lot colder and a lot more prolonged with a better confidence. So there is kind of a trend here, which if you're a cold fan is concerning, because it's kind of going away from more significant cold, potentially to a more watered down and not as prolonged snow kind of scenario. If we look at the Met Office ensembles, kind of the final thing here to give the cold fans kind of some hope is that, interestingly, they are kind of not buying any of this milder stuff, and up until the 10th of December you can see the lines are remaining close together and they're remaining cold. So this is for London, you can see that they're close together and cold. If we look at Aberdeen, you can see again same thing, close together and cold, high confidence on cold weather, particularly getting kind of low around there, the 7th of December. If you look at Birmingham, you can see the same thing, high confidence and cold. And if you kind of look for the snow signal, you can see there is a kind of signal towards extended range. It could get snowy on kind of London, Birmingham, and then especially in Aberdeen, kind of after 7th of December, on the Met Office ensembles. So kind of what does this suggest overall? So it suggests we have a strong kind of confidence that around the 7th of December things are going to turn more cold than they will be this kind of week, which will be actually cold in the first place. And the confidence is we're going to get a significant kind of cold northerly on Wednesday, and that in regards of snow potential, that's going to be mainly kind of affecting northern areas, so particularly northern Scotland, possibly kind of parts of Northern Ireland and maybe Northern England as well for snow potential on Wednesday. That's going to be kind of the only risk, maybe from some showers. So that's kind of what we do have confidence on. Afterwards, we're kind of looking at 3 potential scenarios. The first one is cold dives really far south. The second one is kind of cold really doesn't get that far south at all, like the European, or it's kind of an in-between. And we could be looking at the potential for snow. Snow is not ruled out yet, but compared to about a day ago, it's looking a bit less likely. However, while the trend is not going the right way for cold lands, the trend could kind of very quickly reverse actually. We'll have to keep a close eye on the model runs to see what happens, because just as much as the potential for snow and cold might have kind of gone down slightly, it might go up again. So it's really worth kind of watching the forecast and seeing what happens. So that's the overview. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to get more updates on how much it will snow kind of in this potential cold spell and where it will snow and how cold it will be. Thank you for watching.